Today on How to Drink, my 3 favorite whiskey cocktails of all time. You might be surprised by these. People ask me all the time, hey Greg, what's your favorite cocktail? And as I have said before, and I will again, that is a nearly impossible question for me to answer, unless I can break it down a little bit into like different categories. So today, I'm going to talk about my 3 favorite whiskey cocktails. So right off the bat, you're probably going to expect me to be making an old-fashioned. It's true, I do love an old-fashioned, and I probably make and drink more old-fashions than any other cocktail, though that has a lot to do with me being lazy. And I have addressed the old-fashioned on the show a few different ways, a few different times. I'll put links to those episodes in the pinned comment below. And there's a lot of good reasons for that. They are very simple to make, hence the whole thing about me having more of them than any other drink, because I'm lazy. They do a great job of showcasing a whiskey, or any other spirit actually, and they happen to be enormously popular cocktails with all of you, so it's a topic that you're often interested in. But all that aside, I think it is just slightly edged out by something called an improved whiskey cocktail. And by the way, I do think this is one of those cases where it's got to be either or. We can't do both on this list. Like, these 2 drinks are actually so closely related that they are technically variations on each other. So I don't think it makes sense to simply include both an old-fashioned and an improved whiskey cocktail. Gotta pick one. So we're doing the improved whiskey cocktail. The last time I made this drink for the show, it was ages ago. It was part of the very first batch of 7 episodes that I shot in my living room, and I'm feeling a mite parched. So let me get started on one now. And I'm gonna need a mixing glass to do it. To my mixing glass, I will add a 1/4 ounce of simple syrup. I can do it with either a plain or a Demerara. I think in this case I'll use a plain simple syrup. 1/4 ounce of simple syrup into my mixing glass. And now I need 2 dashes of Boker's bitters. So technically speaking, you can use whatever bitters you prefer here, but you'll find most recipes that have been written for this drink will call for Boker's. And I think that just comes down to Jerry Thomas's 1862 Bartender's Guide calling for Boker's bitters. Boker's was kind of a lost recipe for a long time until this Dr. Adam Elman-Garbay's brand revived it and brought these to market. So I'll need 2 dashes of these. Then I'm going to need a 1/4 ounce of Maraschino Liqueur, which despite the name, I assure you, tastes absolutely nothing like cherries. And then I need rye. I will often make this drink with Rittenhouse Rye, and I'm going to be using Rittenhouse Rye today. 2 ounces of Rittenhouse Rye. By the way, a lot of the spirits, probably most of the spirits I use on How to Drink, you will find at Curiata. I'm very proud of that partnership we have going on there. They are shipping spirits, they are shipping bottles to 28 or 30 states in the United States at present, which, if I'm not mistaken, covers, I think, 70 or 80% of the US population. So there's a very good chance that you're in their service area. We have a special collection created with them. You'll find it at drink.curiata.com or in the pinned comment below. They ship very fast, usually like the very next day. Shipping is not typically free, but if you have a cart that's over $200 and you use code HowToDrink at checkout, you'll get free shipping all the time. It's on a special promotion. They do also run promotions on certain bottles where if it's in your cart, your whole cart will ship free. So sometimes that's a good way to get free shipping too. Anyway, if you want to pick up the bottles I'm using on this episode or on another episode, or that I use regularly, something like Rittenhouse, and it's not available locally, check out drink.curiata.com or in the pinned comment below. So this drink does call for being served in a glass that's been rinsed with absinthe. I find I get indistinguishable results by simply loading a dasher bottle with absinthe and adding a dash of absinthe to the mixing glass right here. If you want to rinse a glass in absinthe, go for it, get your glass, rinse it out, and dash it, right? Or dash it, dodge it, dash it, splash it, get rid of it. Either one works fine. A dash is the way I go because it's less wasteful. I'm gonna crack some ice in here and stir this up. So we've got our drink stirred. I think this drink is typically served in stemware or like in a coupe or something like that. But I'm doing my other drinks in coupes and stemware today and I didn't really want to. And it is equally good in a small rocks glass or something like that. Sort of like a Sazerac. It's cousin to a Sazerac. So I will pour away right there. Garnish that with a twist of lemon peel. If you're being very fancy in a coupe or something like that, maybe you want to use a channel knife and make like a nice spiral or something like that. In this case, I think we can just do a pull and a twist. And do we dump it in straight in or do we make like a feather out of it? Let's just dump it in. That's the way I kind of like it, honestly. And there we have an improved whiskey cocktail. Ooh, that's so good. There's such a delicious evolution there. The combination of the Maraschino and the Boker's bitters, it brings out all these vanilla notes, these round notes, these like baking spice notes, and then it has a kind of caramel sweetness. None of this is overly sweet. This is a very balanced cocktail. And that combination as well, that Maraschino absinthe thing, it kind of conspires, I always think it tastes like a bit like white chocolate or something. Or sometimes like you get those kinds of notes in a very bitter dark chocolate. One of the two. I'm not really sure. I'm saying it's both of them at the same time. It's different parts of that flavor are both of those things at the same time. The lemon really ties it all together. That tart bite from the lemon, that citrus note, it's not bitey. I mean, it's not tart even really. You just get an essence of lemon in the drink from the squeeze. It just lightens and elevates the whole drink. It takes it from, moves it up an octave, so to speak. Boy, is it good. It's a perfect drink. It's my favorite whiskey cocktail. It really is. Absolutely my top favorite whiskey cocktail. I love these drinks. I mentioned before this drink is basically a variation of an old fashioned. So by the 1860s or 1870s, the whiskey cocktail could be ordered improved or sometimes fancy, depending on where you were, often involving various kinds of bitters, curacauos, maraschinos, possibly orgeat, and so on. This recipe essentially amounts to Jerry Thomas's approach to the drink, but other methods are certainly viable. I've said before that the Sazerac is a type of an improved whiskey cocktail, and also not even unique to New Orleans. The old-fashioned, as in that particular name, not the formula so much, the old-fashioned, that comes about as a reaction to this drink, as in, no, not improved, I want mine old-fashioned. It did have to be either this or the other. I don't think I could put both into the episode because they're kind of the same cocktail, right? This is just an old-fashioned that's been elevated. I don't know, if you had to put them side by side, I know I'm gonna pick this. This is my favorite whiskey cocktail overall. After this, I want to talk about another essential classic that I would have to include in any list of my favorite drinks, particularly if it's my favorite whiskey drinks. But let's get to that right up next. If you're watching How to Drink, you might find yourself needing some bar tools. And I know there's at least a few options out there, but I think you should know about Barfly, who, by the way, sponsored this episode, so thank you, Barfly. Barfly manufactures a lot of the tools, hardware, and gadgets used in bars all over the world. They build to professional grades and standards, but also keep costs low because realistically, when you're shaking hundreds of cocktails a week, stuff will get lost or break, and you're gonna need to replace things. And with Barfly, it won't rake you over the coals to do it. If you're gonna make drinks, odds are you're gonna need a shaker. And since Barfly makes them in a number of different finishes, why not make it gold, baby? This pair of tins is made from 18-8 stainless steel and holds a perfect seal, and releases on command. Pair that up with a jigger that's really kind of become my favorite. Barfly calls it the slim jigger. I always, in my head, call it the two-tone jigger because it's two different pieces of metal kind of together. And a tight coil Hawthorne strainer. You're ready to start shaking delicious drinks like this whiskey sour here. Shake it with gold too, baby. Barfly products are available from a number of retailers, including Amazon. And I'm gonna collect this set here together into some affiliate links in the pinned comment below. So next time you're thinking about bar tools, think about Barfly. Thank you. All right, let's talk about the whiskey sour because I love a well-made whiskey sour. They are just so perfect. This is another absolute roots drink. Appears in the 1862 Bartender's Guide from Jerry Thomas. It's a drink that I often suggest to people who are interested in exploring mixology because it is approachable and balanced, and yet there's enough alchemy going on here to really turn your gears, in my opinion. Like if you take a whiskey sour, and maybe you've had some not so great ones, and you make a Jerry Thomas style whiskey sour with the egg white in it, I think it can be a mind-blowing experience that will really be like, oh, okay, I get this. Like I am down to, I want to make some more drinks. So to make a whiskey sour, I'm gonna take my cocktail shaker. I'm going to add to that an ounce of lemon juice. I'm gonna follow that with anywhere between half an ounce to an ounce of simple syrup. I'll probably split the difference on this pour. Probably a little closer to a full ounce. It's important in a whiskey sour, or sour in general, to have enough sweetness here because sour, as we perceive it, as we're describing it, it's really a marrying of the flavors of sweet and tart, right? To get to sour, you have to have both of those things kind of working in concert. If it was just lemon, I think it would just be tart. Now I want to add 2 ounces of whiskey. I like a bourbon or a rye, just fine equally here. I have this All Points West Malt and Grain Pot Still Whiskey. It was the Whiskey of the Year in 2019. I happen to have a bottle. Let's try it in whiskey sour. I've not made a whiskey sour with this yet. I feel like it's gonna make a nice one. It won't be a terrible one. Might be slightly extravagant. This is a fairly fancy whiskey, but why not, you know? And now I need an egg white. Now, I get a lot of comments that will say, hey, when you add an egg white to this drink, it's called a Boston Sour. I am not actually really sure where that nomenclature comes from. I don't think it's in the Jerry Thomas guide. I'm pretty sure he just says that sometimes they are served with an egg white. I might be wrong on that. I haven't checked recently. So if you want to call this a Boston Sour, that's fine. This egg is abnormally small. Did you get like medium eggs somehow? That's amazing. I've never felt eggs this small. They're so small. We can make pasta with this. I don't think it comes from Jerry Thomas to call it a Boston Sour. I don't actually know where that enters the nomenclature. I could be wrong on there. It might be in there and I'm just not remembering it correctly or whatever. The titles will correct me. If you want to call it a Boston Sour, that's fine. That's your business. But honestly, to me, a whiskey sour without the egg white, in my opinion, is just not really worth making unless you're going to be making a New York sour, which has a float of wine. I love a New York sour. Ultimately, I like a whiskey sour with an egg white a little bit more, and that's why this is the one I'm making here. So take your egg white, put it into the drink. Personally, I don't think it's worth making a standard whiskey sour without an egg white. Okay, so we're gonna dry shake this because there's an egg white in it. When you dry shake, it's the ice that helps your shaker seal. So you really wanna kind of go overboard on tapping this sucker shut. Otherwise, it might pop open and leak on you. Get some ice, throw one big old cube in there, and then the other one will crack up. Clasp them together. Shake it so hard you feel like you're having a small heart attack. It's perhaps a bit excessive. Get an appropriate sour glass. That's what this is. This is a sour glass. Riedel makes these. I'll put a link in the pinned comment below, an affiliate link, so that if you want one of these, it'll be available to you. Okay, and away we pour. Another thing I think is essential at this point is actually bitters. I suppose they're technically optional, not actually called for in most recipes I've seen other than as like a garnish, but I think the garnish of bitters matters. I like to take a few drops of Peychaud and put them on my foamy egg white head once it's really kind of set. I think it really improves the character of the drink, so it came out of there a little hard there. Usually I try to do like a little drop. I gotta get better at this. And then I'll take a cocktail pick and I'll make some kind of a swirl or some kind of art out of these little guys, you know. Just even doing that is pretty cool. I love Angostura bitters, by the way. But if you haven't tried Peychaud's here or any other similar Creole style of bitters for the top of a whiskey sour, I think you really should. It really sets this drink off, in my opinion. And there it is, the whiskey sour as I love it. One of my absolutely top 3 favorite whiskey drinks of all time. Should be perfect. Let's see how it is. It's heavenly. It's absolutely amazing. Ooh. Oh, and that whiskey is great because it... Okay. So... Oh, wow. That's really cool whiskey for this drink. What a pleasant surprise. So first off, the texture is the first thing you notice with a drink like this, with an egg white. It is almost on its way to like a milkshake. I mean, like one of those thin milkshakes, like not an ice cream milkshake, but like a traditional... I love those. It has this very silky, round kind of mouthfeel. With this perfectly balanced, sweet, tart, sour that you get, right? You know, a little less than an ounce of simple, I think, is fine here. A little less, even more, maybe you could make it more refreshing, but I like it to be a bit of a treat. I like it to be somewhere kind of in that treat territory. The Peychaud's on the roof of this drink, it adds this very subtle, spicy, anise kind of absinthe note to it. It also, it's beautiful. It contrasts the drink really well. It's bright red that you get in the nose. You get yeah, and you're ingesting them too. Oh my God, it just adds so much to the character and balance of this drink. It's hard to describe. Oh, bubblegum. When you do this right with a bourbon of quality or a whiskey of quality, something that's got some profile, some evolution to it, right? Sure. There is an argument that, yeah, you're mixing. You don't want to use really high quality stuff. Well, if you were a woodworker, would you want to use scrap wood for everything you make? Or would there be some projects where you'd want to use really good wood for? If you were building an airplane, would you want to use scrap aluminum or would you want to use like new high quality aircraft aluminum? The quality of the ingredients you are using, in a lot of cases, maybe not all, but I would say most, it will directly affect the overall outcome, the final product, right? So this whiskey, when you take a complex spirit that's got some age on it, a bourbon or a whiskey or something like that, and you make a cocktail with it, a balanced cocktail, you take that flavor profile, that evolution, and maybe you don't have the palate to detect all the notes in it, but when you make it into a cocktail, you open it up and you stretch it out, you separate the notes so that you can get each piece. So on this, I'm getting like a bubblegum note right away. I'm also getting a ton of peanuts, kind of a roasting peanut. Different from the kind of peanut notes that I get in like one of my other favorite budget bourbons, Old Grandad Bottle and Bond. And it's awesome how it evolves and is elongated here. I'm getting little bits of coffee ground notes in this as well. It's heaven in a glass. Also, that sweet tart thing, it has, like if you've ever had sherbet, when like a raspberry sorbet or something like that, the texture, the sweetness, the tartness, that is kind of what it evokes. It's not the exact same thing, but it kind of feels like that actually. And a showcase, you put different whiskeys in it, different ryes, different bourbons, you're gonna get a different drink every time. That to me is a perfect drink. It can't be improved on. And that is why it is one of my top 3 whiskey cocktails of all time. All right, so next up, something probably unexpected. And truth be told, I don't make nearly enough of this drink, right? It's a tiki drink, and I love tiki drinks, but it is in some ways kind of hindered by the fact that when I get into a tiki way of thinking, I also tend to get very lazy, and I gravitate towards stuff that I can make basically blindfolded, like Queen's Park Swizzles and Mai Tai. That said, in a list of my favorite whiskey drinks, this is a must include. I'm talking about the Halekulani Cocktail. Now this drink was invented in the 1920s, so really early tiki, probably proto-tiki, at the Halekulani Hotel in Waikiki for their bar, the House Without a Key, which is still probably my favorite name for a bar ever. So get your shaker, and we're gonna put a ½ ounce of lime juice in there. I happen to have juiced a bunch of limes for another episode, so I don't normally use them from a bottle, but why would I waste perfectly good lime juice? ½ ounce of lime juice right in there. Then ½ ounce of orange juice, which I juiced just before this episode. It's tedious to juice them here in the bar. And ½ ounce of pineapple juice. Now, this is from a can. When drinks call for pineapple juice, unless they really specifically call for fresh pineapple juice, anything that was invented in the 20th century, they kind of do mean canned, dull pineapple juice. It is the way people got pineapple juice pretty much everywhere for a long time. That's what they mean. Get a ½ ounce of Demerara or simple syrup. I've got some Demerara syrup right here. This drink does call for a dash or 2 of Angostura bitters. I'm gonna hold off on adding that to my shaker, but you could, if you're gonna do it that way, add them right here. I get them into the drink another way in a minute. Now you wanna add an 1.5 ounces of barrel-proof bourbon. I'm gonna use Noah's Mill. Previously I've done this drink with Boker's. Yeah, barrel cask strength bourbon. Really stands up to all those other fruit juices we've added to this thing. Purists are gonna hate me. Boker's, Noah's Mill, these fine, high proof bourbons are extremely good here. And I come back to that issue of like, if you're making good drinks, you should use good ingredients. Fill the shaker with cracked ice and shake it and strain it into a coupe. Let's get a little garnish on there. Maybe some, this should come right out, jeez. There we go. I'm gonna add my Angostura bitters. I'm going to use this atomizer to make an Angostura flamethrower. I've got Angostura bitters in there. This is a misto. You pressurize the living heck out of it. This is a trick I'm borrowing from Jeff Morgenthaler. I think he utilized this on a different drink where he was going for like a toasted marshmallow thing with an egg white, which was awesome. But I like it here too, it's just fun. And also there's something about the flambéed Angostura bitters. I've used this in a few drinks. They just are, they smell great, they're tasty, they're delicious. And you know, it's tiki. We gotta be a little showboaty. And there we have it, a Halekulani cocktail. Let's taste our way into the South Pacific. Ooh, and I love that, the burn. I mean, you get that smell. It has a floral, like a floral, smoky charcoal cinnamon smell from the, it's awesome. Ooh, that's good. Oh yes, that's lovely. Yeah. Pineapple, sweet and tart and sour, peanuts and cinnamon and Oh man, that's fun. That's a good drink, man. Super well balanced. It has a vegetal notes to it. The combination of fruit syrups here against, it's the tartness from the lime married to the pineapple, to the orange juice, and then our bourbon and our bitters. It actually kind of has like a fresh, grassy kind of like herbal thing happening. Not like a spicy herbal thing like you might get in a chartreuse, but like herbal, like maybe the smell of a garden in a way, right? Or like if you were to cut herbs in your garden, that aroma that you get. You get the smoke from the burning Angostura bitters that I actually really love. The aroma of like that singed, scorched cinnamon and allspice and all the secret sauce that makes Angostura bitters. And just like this kind of Polynesian, round, fresh fruit pineapple thing that's happening. The pineapple is probably the most dominant fruit flavor. The orange and lime are balancing ingredients. And then your bourbon. And it is a great showcase for bourbon because with all of that, you're getting all the notes of the bourbon, which is another peanutty bourbon. A touch of like oak, a touch of the bitterness. You get some vanilla. You get some, let me go back in. I mean, peanuts again. It's like a very grown-up Hawaiian punch. Tart, pineapple, peanutty, chocolatey, cinnamony, all spicy. I mean, it's great. It's a fantastic drink. And I have to, it is one of my objectively favorite whiskey cocktails because there are not a lot of tiki whiskey cocktails, right? So I'm happy that I get to include a tiki entrance in our list of my favorite whiskey cocktails. So here they are, my top 3 whiskey drinks. My overall, absolutely super top favorite whiskey drink, the improved whiskey cocktail. It's from the golden age of cocktails from the 1860s, 1870s, 1880s. There's nothing there that doesn't need to be there. It is perfectly balanced and everything is doing its job, and a great showcase for a bourbon. All of these are great showcases for a whiskey. They will all taste different with different whiskeys and you will get different results, which is great because it will benefit you to try different whiskeys. The whiskey sour, another one of my favorites, absolute favorite. This is a drink I recommend to people who are interested in exploring mixology because I think it will really turn you on to it as a craft, as a hobby. You get the textural elements, the mouthfeel, the balance. It is easy to drink. I mean, if you have not yet developed a taste for whiskey, you will probably like this drink. It's like a treat. It's a breath of fresh air. And then the Halekulani Cocktail, a tiki drink actually from Hawaii, originated in Hawaii, which is pretty rare. It's so cool to take that bourbon flavor and make it do a hula dance. It's awesome. If you're looking to make any of the drinks I'm using on the show, follow along at home, try out any of these whiskeys yourself, or just stock up with some Rittenhouse, which is a great rye to keep. It mixes very well. It's pretty affordable as far as things go. Check out drink.curiata.com. Shipping to 28 or 30 states, whatever it is, it covers, I think, 80% of the US population. Generally the next day. Orders $199 or more will be free with code HOWTODRINK at checkout. I'm Greg. This is HTD, the show that is sometimes about making cocktails and how to drink them. You'll find me on Twitter at HowToDrink, on Instagram at HowToDrink. I'm on Patreon at patreon.com/HowToDrink. There are some bits and pieces of this episode that will definitely wind up over there at Patreon. That's generally where the kind of unedited stuff goes, a little too raw for YouTube. I have a TikTok now. I don't know. Don't bother to follow me over there. I'm not doing anything over there yet. And I'm on Twitch at twitch.tv/GregFromHTD. I've fallen off my streaming schedule a bit, but I'm going to get back on it. Twitch.tv/GregFromHTD. I will see you guys very soon with another episode of HTD. In the meantime, I've been making the show for quite a while. You know, we've done my favorite rum drinks, which is up here. We've done drinks that are like just basics, like drinks to start with for mixology. We've done 3-ingredient cocktails. We've done a whole bunch of tiki stuff. If you haven't been around, you got some homework to do. So I'll see you next week with a quiz. Okay? Okay. See you guys soon. Bye-bye.